looking at you, right? Right.
Hi, today is Tuesday, November the 13th. I'm here at an interview. We're looking forward to interviewing Mr. Mikial Newberry. And my name is Jeannie Joy. I'm here with my partner, Brandon King. We're going to be doing a documentary concerning East Cleveland. And we want to thank you, first of all, for participating. And we're so excited about this interview today on this terrific Tuesday. So, first of all, we want to see if we can just open it up and you just tell us a little bit about you and your family, and then we can proceed on.
All right. My name is Mikial Newberry, and usually I have what I call my top 10 most frequent asked questions. So a lot of people ask me, well, how did you get into, this holistic health thing? How do you get into the arts? And I find it interesting when I actually reverse the question. I ask, we should be more concerned, how did we get away from being holistic, meaning to be whole with oneself and nature, or to be whole and one with God in the universe. So the question is more profoundly how to get back to this. I teach in my workshops and many different clients and students I've been privileged to work with that we must start looking at health more as a moral and spiritual discipline rather than a dietary discipline. And I'll go further in explanation on this, which is currently one of the chapters that I talk about in my book I'm in the present of working on.
And just a lead-in question, also, can you tell us about your family, the length of time, what year you actually moved to East Cleveland? I know you were in Cleveland and you relocated and you went back to East Cleveland. Can you tell us a little bit more about that process?
Well, I went pretty much to all East Cleveland schools. I moved into East Cleveland about early 80s. And before I started East Cleveland schools, I wasn't in the school district yet, but I still had this magnetism toward East Cleveland, all right? So like many others, I was one of the ones who went to East Cleveland schools outside the school district. I lived with two of my sisters out of the four sisters, my older sisters. I'm the youngest out of five. I'm the only boy. So our parents both became deceased earlier in our early years. So my third older sister was my guardian. So as I journeyed to East Cleveland, at this time, a culture known as hip hop was spawning, and what I call East Cleveland is like South Bronx, New York. That's what East Cleveland is to the rest of Cleveland, Ohio. No matter what you did, what you was known for, you could be pretty good at it. You had to come to East Cleveland to get another level of to be recognized on another level, you see. East Cleveland known for the Shaw High talent shows, which was pretty much big through the 80s and early 90s. We was known for East Cleveland festivals. And all due respect to Glenville, they had some good festivals too. But it was neck and neck. It was East Cleveland, Cleveland, East Cleveland, Glenville, Cleveland. East Cleveland, one thing I like about East Cleveland, especially being at Shaw High in the 80s, everybody was family. Even if you didn't know everybody's name, you still spoke.
And when you mentioned, where did your family originated from, and why was East Cleveland one of their directions they went to?
Well, I would say personally for myself and my spiritual calling, it was no coincidence that I ended up in a historical place such as East Cleveland. I originally was born on Cedar Avenue. I was born at home intentionally. I wasn't born in the hospital.
Okay. Where your family is from?
My family is from, my father's side of family is from the South.
Okay.
Some of my mother's side as well, but my mother's side more so up north, so we talking about Kentucky and Atlanta and Cleveland.
So your parents met here?
Yes, met in Cleveland.
Okay. And you have, how many other siblings?
I have 4.
4 siblings. And were they all together and moved to East Cleveland?
All of
together?
us live in East Cleveland.
Okay. So what are your brothers and sisters doing now?
Well, I have basically one is retired. One is retired, and both of them retired.
Okay.
And I guess they just enjoy the rest of their life how they see fit to do so.
Okay.
You know, so.
And what age were you when you moved to East Cleveland? When you moved, relocated, and came back, what was that age?
About 11 years old.
Your first initial.
Right.
Okay. And you left when? What year or age?
I left East Cleveland when I turned 18.
18, okay. Was that by choice?
Yeah, that's by choice.
Okay. And you moved back to East Cleveland at what age?
I moved back to East Cleveland around 21.
Oh, 21, so it was just a short lived that you had left.
Right.
And why did you choose East Cleveland?
Well, I'll put it to you like this. A lot of people around that time of year, all East Cleveland people went to Euclid, all right? So I was just right down the street on Euclid, around 195th and Euclid.
Okay.
But I still was always in East Cleveland. So I moved down there. That was my first apartment as a young man. Me and another East Clevelander by the name of Aaron Brown. We all went to Shaw. And we moved down there. That was our first apartment together.
Okay.
So after some work situations changed, moved back to East Cleveland. You know, so.
And the rest of your family, siblings, were still there?
Right.
Okay. Okay. Let's lead to the next question. Can you think back to your earliest memories of East Cleveland and tell me what life was like then?
Wow. I'll have to say, East Cleveland pretty much known for entertainment of all sorts. It was my apprenticeship to breaking, MCing, DJing, graffiti art. You know, what we call B-boy, and just the different elements of hip hop. It also, at that same time and era, entertainment was mixed with athleticism, which was pretty big in East Cleveland. So I was very committed to improving myself as a hip hop entertainer. And I had the honor and privilege to dance with Coogee Rap, DJ Polo, Run DMC, Public Enemy, and Dougie Fresh.
So at that time, entertainment, hip hop just really came on the scene around that same time, is that correct?
Right, it came recognized on another level as a business industry at that time. Okay. And East Cleveland was known for a lot of hip hop competitions, or what we call battles. So most of the most popular old school DJs, some of everybody, and then some came through East Cleveland to perform.
So during that time in the 1980s when you were really involved in hip hop, what places would you state that you did most of your entertaining in East Cleveland?
A lot of people who are not familiar with East Cleveland from the 80s and 70s probably never recall, never seen the old architecture of Windermere Rapid Station. So it used to be an underground tunnel. So we used to battle down in the tunnels like the movie Beach Street. The back parking lot, the tunnel used to take you from the front of Windermere to the back going to Hayden. So right around there, the back parking lot, the front of the parking lot where everybody could see us while they waiting on the rapid or the bus. In front of Dawes Rapid Creation, the infamous Dawcraft Creation, owned by Kermit. Right around Baron Brewing and Euclid, Dawn Avenue, Shaw by the Civic Center.
So was that just freelance entertainment, or was it a structure?
It was both. It was both. More so, it was more freelance at first. where people, city officials see that this was something that can be beneficial for the youth and just overall unity in the community. So they start conducting community events around what you asked about being freelance.
And when you mentioned entertainment, was that something that y'all did on your own, was it freelance? But people had opportunity to stop and see you, is that correct?
Right. Well, when you get into the origin of hip hop, it's the poorest art form, but the most articulate at the same time. I'll give you an example. Many of us didn't have the means to afford instruments. So through the culture of hip hop, we learned how to turn our bodies into human instruments. Okay, when I say it's the poorest art form, we took any and everything and made it into something. We took cardboard that people wasn't using. As a matter of fact, you want to get into archives of East Cleveland. The first dollar store that was in Dome at Euclid Plaza became very popular from hip hop. You know, we used to buy the old thick fluorescent colored shoestrings, what we call Fat Boy shoestrings. And the reason why that store became very popular, because back in that time and era, iron-on letters was very popular. So first the letters was 15 cents a letter.
Okay.
So they said, they started seeing a lot of youth was buying these letters up, so they went up to a quarter a letter.
Okay.
Then it eventually went up to $1. Then Kermit wanted to get in on the action, he started pressing up shirts. So, I mean, we really became we turned this into an industry, you know, so.
And I just like to continue on that path because it was important, like hip hop is important today. Do you think in 2012, has it changed, and in what area has it changed in entertainment?
Well, that's where the confusion come in. People confuse hip hop with corporate America. And I'll give you a quick example. When you look at hip hop, is actually an acronym, HIP, HOP, and I'll spell it out for you. Her infinite power, helping oppressed people. So when you look at hip hop started in the early 70s, in some areas, you know, the origin of hip hop in New York, it was considered illegal to actually dance. Because, you know, certain laws, certain states, when you get into what's called the revised code of rioting, you know, if it's 2 or more people, you consider it a threat. So when you look at the history of presidency of racism, you see 3 or more people of African descent together, even if they're in harmony, it was considered a threat at one time. So that's where it was considered illegal in certain states. But in East Cleveland, we pretty much didn't have that problem.
And I'm glad you brought that part of it out because our youth need to know how and what you did when you didn't have any money.
Right.
But you still had a good time.
That's right.
Correct?
Right.
And other than that, I want to lead to the next question. What are your fondest memories of East Cleveland?
Well, let me narrow that down. There's many. I like the unity of overall the people in the city. My memory, what reinforces my memories today is that Shaw High itself is known as one of the biggest schools, no matter what class you come from. You could be from the 60s, class of the 70s, 80s, 90s. We big time on the internet. You got Shaw High down south now, Shaw High West Coast, Shaw High East Coast. So I would pretty much say the energy, the unity of the whole community. Everybody know everybody.
So you had also mentioned and continue, and I feel the passion. We had a lot of unity. That means people came together. What was your definition of unity that they had then that they don't have now?
One of the things that most stick out in my mind immediately is I mentioned earlier about everybody had to come to East Cleveland to be recognized on another level. Well, one thing I like about what hip hop did for different communities as a whole. You had your sport rivalries with Collinwood, Glenville, and Collinwood, Glenville School District is so close to East Cleveland. I mean, it's walking distance practically, borderline. And overall, we all got along. I could wear my shawl jacket in Cleveland Heights, West Side, but because of my popularity with hip hop, which other principles was demonstrated peace, love, and having unity and fun. That's some of the principles of hip hop. We wasn't caught up into the school rivalry. You had a few people here and there that had some personal issues, but overall, hip hop allowed all these different neighborhoods to come together. That's right.
Do you think now, if you have any kids, if you can expound on, or if your family members that are younger, do you think they experience the same karate of the unity?
Oh, no.
Get together?
No, this a total different time and era.
Okay.
And see, the children you speaking of in this generation now is actually the children of those who I personally went to school with at one point. We was in the school the same time and era in life. So what you seeing now, this younger generation, is the absolute total lack of knowledge of self. And on a political level, on a social, moral, and spiritual level, this is the result of what you see today. And you see this across the board in other states of the union as well.
When you say lack of self, can you explain to us?
When you understand the term synergy, synergy means no individual part is greater than the whole. So that means all things are one. When we disconnect ourselves from whatever we refer to as the Most High and in the universe meaning one, we continue to debase ourselves on multiple levels. And all these things make up the self, which is singular. Okay. When we start separating ourselves from the oneness of everything, we lose ourselves. And truly to know yourself, you must study all these things that you're connected to.
Do you think that with the younger people now being more in technology age and being so selfish and not know themselves, does that have an effect on the thinking process and what they're doing now?
I wouldn't necessarily contribute to the technology age because all this technology is created by us.
Okay.
So it's more rather that we lack guidance and instruction on the value of life. We lack, as I call in my book, the parentless parents are having children. You see, so my experience going back to East Cleveland, teaching now about holistic health and teaching martial arts, I've come to find out that many children don't eat. They have no guardian at home to govern their activity. They just out and about, and I'm actually quoting what they tell me.
So with them having no guidance in the home, because I can remember when my parents had kids at a young age, but then you had grandma and them was around, and you still had that unity. So correct me if I'm wrong, do you think now with women live and they're being out of the household and children raising their self now, that they lack in certain things that they don't know? So now we're seeing the effects of it. Would you agree?
Yes, but when we get into why the guard is not in the household, that opens up another whole subject matter. And this is really a compliment to females, but it's also the truth. I've been around females all my life, and I've been blessed to have done so. And it was one thing to be out the house. In fact, 89% of the households in Cleveland are single parent. Okay, so you take the other 11% and split that in half. Just because there's a male presence does not mean they're active in that household. Now, when you take the other half, you still have, whether it's an uncle or stepfather, or soon-to-be stepfather, whether the association of time may be, you have those are active. You have more people who are active in the community versus in the household, that they live actually in the house. For example, I have students who have the mother and father present, physically present in the house, but not mentally, emotionally, and morally in the house. You know, we back to what I call the parentless parents.
I was saying that would lead to the next question. In what ways has the city changed over time, and what do you think contributes to those changes?
I would not be historically correct if I left out the drug infestation that came on the play in East Cleveland. Some of the streets now that you see abandoned and boarded up, and one thing East Cleveland is known for is its beautiful homes. And when you have the historical Rockefellers that used to live there, you know, you're gonna have the surroundings of the Rockefellers marvelous as well. Page, for example, the bottom side of Page going towards Hayden. Everybody used to want to move in Page. These was like big houses and apartment buildings. The style, I remember I used to, when I was 14, one of my friends used to live there. Like, wow, I'd like to live over here. Those who haven't experienced East Cleveland in the 80s, early 90s, don't know East Cleveland in its true essence. You hear a lot of myths and rumors. You know, the children, as I say, they portray East Cleveland like South Central or some gang territory. It is nothing really like that. It's just, we call it our undisciplined nieces and nephews running around who just need to be checked here and there. It's a lot of mythology here on East Cleveland being so bad when it's really just the lack of eldership there.
When you said the street, spell the street name for what you mentioned, Page?
Page.
Okay. And you would say that the homes that are still in good shape, but they just need to be maintained?
Yeah, but it need to be maintained more so with love. See, part of my practice as a holistic health practitioner and process, I deal with energy medicine. And a house is not truly clean until it's energetically clean, for example. You can go to a beautiful home in appearance, but you say it's bad energy here. So we want to get into the energetic essence of all things, the energetic makeup of things, person, places, and things.
Are you teaching now in East Cleveland at this point?
Not currently. There's some discussion going on for me to come back and do a program there, more so in the churches. But I previously was working at East Cleveland Civic Center, Martin Luther King Civic Center.
And you was doing what there?
I was teaching martial arts and I was doing motivational speaking and mentoring.
And what the school, you mentioned you went to several schools in East Cleveland, is that correct? What
Yes, I went to Superior Elementary. Currently, the school known as Heritage, it was known as Kirk Middle High School when I attended, and I went to the infamous Shaw High.
Leading to the next question is, how has race or racism impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Racism has impacted me, I would say, more so on a more spiritual level. Only reinforce my principles of staying steadfast in what's right, and also giving me the intuition to see the root to all these issues that is currently going on in our society as far as East Cleveland. Around the time I was in East Cleveland, coming to East Cleveland, it was more racism issues far as on the police force. Not big, but it existed. But at the same time, because of the overall community in East Cleveland, that didn't last long. Those police officers pretty much, for whatever reason, they was removed from the force or they was reassigned somewhere else.
When you say coming up, in what year you mentioned that you think the police force has changed?
As far as for the better,
for both? What year do you think?
I remember probably the most confrontational times for East Cleveland Police. I would say pretty much between 86 to 88, 89.
And during that period of time, you saw a different effect in what area?
I seen it start to become better in steps and degrees from 89 on up, because what took place is what you see now. Most of the residents from or people who was attending school East Cleveland from the 80s are now currently police officers. Now the neighborhood now pretty much work the neighborhood, regardless of the occupation it may be, or own a store there, whether it's hair salon, barber shop, corner store. You see a lot of our own establishing business in East Cleveland.
And with you being in East Cleveland, knowing it and back in different places, and relocated, your age group now is taking over East Cleveland now, correct?
Yeah, certain things as far as politics and residential events, you could say that. Mm-hmm.
Are you happy about that?
Yes, you know, besides things that can be improved, of course, you know, another thing I love about East Cleveland is our reunions. We always stay in touch, no matter how far some people move. Some people literally have moved way across the country. They always find themselves back at the events. I always stumble across missing a Shaw High reunion event from whatever class. Who gave that party? Shaw gave another party? You know, this is year round. This is every season. You know, so it's a beautiful thing. You know.
When you mentioned that y'all come together annually, do y'all ever talk about the issues that are currently going on to move forward, or you get together just to be able to say that you work in East Cleveland and just be a part of it? Is it anything that's happening in the future? Is that a talk at all?
Oh, of course we do, because we have a special place in our heart for this city. You know, what's happening is people who move outside of East Cleveland, but still East Clevelanders in the heart, or still live there, I think that, well, it's not a thing. What's going on is the ones who concern themselves, they're not in the occupation or connected to someone who works for the city to further their ideals and expressions on helping better any situations that need to be perfected in East Cleveland. They just viewers, or I should say, they bearing witness to some of the issues, but some of them are not sure how to go about to contribute, play their part, and what they can do. You know.
So they know it's some issues that can be addressed now and in the future, but they haven't collaborated to get that together.
Right. Basically, they question, well, what is going on? Why is it going on? And when is something going to be done about it? What can be done about it?
And you can remember as a young, a youth going to the same events, some events in September, is that correct? Around Labor Day you have the event for Shaw?
Well, it's events all year round. You know, I mean, my time of era coming up for East Cleveland. I mean, even in the wintertime, we get together. It don't matter if it's snowing outside.
But the big event is in September, is that correct?
Oh, you talking about the reunion in the park?
Correct.
The Shaw party all year, all right? Just be honest with you. All year. That's just one of the traditional things. All year round, Shaw gets together.
That's good. And also the next question is, how has inequality impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Me personally, I appreciate it because it keeps me connected to some of the personal experience that contribute to everything I'm doing today. You know, I feel I run into people, even if we don't remember each other's name, we still close and we know each other. It reminds me of why I stayed on my path.
Okay.
You know, my importance as a servant, as a humanitarian. So that's what, on a personal level, what it means to me, far as a community as a whole.
And with the impact of East Cleveland, how has that impacted East Cleveland and inequality?
It reinforces a love that has not disappeared, but this same love needs to come back and nurture the East Cleveland of today.
So let me be clear on that. The inequality of East Cleveland, you stated is lacking something, is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And it's lacking what?
It's lacking things more on a moral and spiritual level.
Example?
Well, you want to, it's a difference between when you say the word neighborhood and hood.
Okay.
All right. A neighborhood is where you have a collective group of people that work together, do things together, seek to maintain peace and harmony together by any means. When you hear this term hood, that means everybody for themselves. Everybody disconnected from one another. You know, the survival of the fittest, which is more of a carnal nature, worldly nature, than a moral and spiritual nature.
Okay. The next one, can you recollect a memory of an incident when you fought for something in East Cleveland as a collective whole?
Wow. I would have to say it's been talk about certain issues with the remake and tearing down of Shaw without rebuilding it at one point in time. And also, it was a talk at a certain point in time about getting rid of Shaw Football Stadium without replacing it or remodeling it or rebuilding it in a certain amount of time. So you even have people who are from the 70s who heard about this and they came and put their input in on this. So that right there stands out more so than anything else.
And that's when you took a part of it, or you
Right.
remember that? So what year would the new Shaw open up? New Shaw High School open?
I think maybe 4 years ago,
So
4 or 5 years ago, right?
And the old Shaw had what that the new Shaw doesn't have, meaning bigger space? I understand it was a swimming pool that you missed or you remember.
Wow. We had what's called, you know, our buildings had different names. So we had a vocational building, we have the technical building, and a lot of entertainment or hip hop battles took place in the courtyard. You know, that was like what they call Rutgers Courts in New York. You know, that was the Madison Square Garden for us. So there's a lot of memories, and also the school overall itself, the architecture is different. The old architecture accommodated our future goals and talents that we were shaping and molding for our lives to come ahead of us. It was our personal sacred place for personal growth.
Okay, so fondest memories in that area.
Yeah.
Okay. The next, how has the surrounding institutions or cities impacted East Cleveland, good or bad? How have they the surrounding areas?
I would say one of the things East Cleveland is used in a lot of marketing as far as open community events. So, of course, I would say more so real estate had an impact on East Cleveland with the rebuilding of Windermere Rapid Station being connected to what's known as the Health Line and the history of Cleveland Clinic Universal Circle here, running all the way from public square to East Cleveland. It's a lot of history as far as the health and wellness field. So East Cleveland plays a part in that. A lot of people don't know. I'll go on air to say this. A lot of people think the city of East Cleveland is broke, but I've come to find out that once you have the essence and presence of the Rockefeller, that East Cleveland has never been so much poor. Probably is more of a spiritual issue more than economical. There's some political issues that need to be perfected in East Cleveland. And I think people looking at the image of East Cleveland, that is a smokescreen. I would say that when we get the right people in office that's sincere about East Cleveland, you will see an improvement take place.
When you mentioned the Rockefellers and you had an impact, and I can feel your passion about it, in the history of the Rockefeller, you're saying that with that rich history in East Cleveland now, it should be doing what?
Well, to get into this subject matter, I'll just say that there is a middleman, an entity that is the key right now to better East Cleveland, and at the same time, they can hinder and slow down progress of East Cleveland.
Okay. And when I mentioned about the surrounding institutions and the city, meaning that with University Circle, you have the colleges that are there, you have Cleveland, you have Euclid, those places that I mentioned, do you think that those surrounding areas impact East Cleveland in what perspective? Well,
let's take example of the health line. Why does the health line travel from Public Square to Windermere Rapid Station? There are significant events that has taken place and are the makings of taking place now that will shape and mold the future of not only Cleveland but beyond Cleveland. There's a big shift going to taking place in the world with health and wellness, and let me give you an example of how powerful it is. And it connects to the phrase, Cleveland is the best location in the nation, if you ever heard of this before. You hear a lot of comedians like Sinbad, Eddie Murphy, new comedians always refer to Cleveland being the best location in the nation. When you look at what's the most profound thing in the world taking place now, it is health and wellness. Let's look at what's killing people. And all this is answering the question. It's not terrorism. Let's look at what's happening annually. The last terrorist act was 9/11. Only 3,100 people was killed from that, unfortunately. Now let's get into things annually. Homicide, FBI report average 18,000 a year, which includes drug-related crimes. Homicide is always 1,000 plus over homicide mortalities every year. That's not even 50,000. Car wrecks and train crashes total up to 40,000 a year. Now let's get into food-related issues. That's totally preventable and also totally reversible. Starting with the lowest number, obesity. 600,000 people a year die from obesity. Obesity has passed the usage of tobacco products. Cancer pushing 1 million a year. Other heart diseases and diabetes, well over 1 million people a year. So when you look at food being used, or I should say the Western world diet being used as the greatest biological weapon, being used to reduce the population by 90%. Now this brings us to the famous Cleveland Clinic. Cleveland Clinic is so powerful and so well known internationally. People from other countries far and wide over the body of the Pacific Ocean and the Atlantic come to Cleveland Clinic for its expertise and its staff of surgeons. Also for the holistic health program led and headed by Dr. Esterstein at Cleveland Clinic. And he's one of the engineers in the holistic health now, along with his colleagues, who you see in many food documentaries and movies that's very successful in reversing all these food-related diseases.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So when you look at things that impact East Cleveland, those families like Rockefeller and their associates, all of them have a big part in this reshaping and molding the new Cleveland connected to East Cleveland today.
Lead to the next one.
That's good.
What is your vision for the future of East Cleveland? And tell me about some major issues that needs to be addressed in order to better your neighborhood, community, and city.
Well, this brings me back to what I mentioned earlier about the term synergy. No individual part is greater than the whole. East Cleveland, though, it is known as its own city with borderlines and as far as has its own district. It's still part of a whole. You see, so to get into East Cleveland, let's get into its fellow neighbors, the city of Euclid. You know, you got to look at its borderline cities, Cleveland Heights. You have to look at going back towards Universal Circle. No individual part is greater than its whole. So all these surrounding borders are a big part of East Cleveland. Always have been, always will. Cleveland Heights, what we call the hilltop. You know, the people who went to Shaw lived on, they called themselves the hilltop because they was borderline Cleveland Heights, East Cleveland. You got borderline Glenville, East Cleveland, when you're going towards Shaw and 127th, 125th in St. Clair. So you look at East Cleveland as, when you get into the term, back to the term neighborhood now, that's when you have to look at these borderline cities in connection to East Cleveland. For East Cleveland, when I see the future of East Cleveland, it's definitely, it starts in the households. Charity starts at home and spreads abroad, for example. We can say, oh, the youth, this and that, but this youth needs parental guidance. The parents need parental guidance. One thing I do see taking place that's actually happening in East Cleveland is a program that's being sponsored, that East Cleveland Civic Center sponsors, called, it's a program for fathers. And it's just for fathers. Fathers and sons. Fathers who are new fathers, fathers already fathers. They allow people to contribute to this program any way they can, which plays an important role in not only balance, but just to shape a more order out of chaos.
Is that the father initiative or is it something new?
It's not new, but it's not that old of a program. I would say probably last 4 or 5 years.
And where is it being held?
They have one of their locations, sponsor locations at Martin Luther King East Cleveland Civic Center on Shaw High.
Okay, you said it's been around 4 years?
Yeah, that I know of, 4 or 5 years in that location. They have other locations that sponsor them as well.
What would you be able or prepared to do to participate in making East Cleveland better?
I would definitely establish a holistic health and wellness program, and I'll tell you why. You can't do anything without health. We have to look at health more as a state of mind. It is a consciousness, like sickness is a state of mind. This generation, I call them the vending machine generation, okay? I have been asked for quarter of many days. I used to be at East Cleveland 5 days a week, and I get asked for change to eat out the vending machine. You know, we have not been taught what the purpose of eating is. Therefore, by default, we don't know the true source of food that we need to eat. And a lot of the children are protein nutrition deficient. So that, for them to shape and mold and grow into anything, before you get to talk about what would you like to do in life, you have to make sure they can even sustain life. So I would definitely set up a health and wellness program.
And if doing that, what would be your first small, I say, piece to get people to know about health and wellness?
I would set up, basically I set up a workshop with following workshops, and it would have the basic but profound introduction to what health is. See, you can't, it's hard to establish something for yourself and you don't know what it is. It's very evident as a nation we don't know what it is because it's absent. In my book I call University Hospital, Cleveland Clinic, the #1 timeshare vacation area in America. You know, we live in the hospitals now. We live for the hospitals now. We make this into a trip, a festival. Girl, I'm about to go to the hospital. You coming with me? You see, so we have to learn about what health is because it's absence. We think to be miserable is natural now. We think it's natural. So we have to learn how to live a toxic-free lifestyle.
I just want to take and yield my opportunity to my counterpart, Mr. Brandon King, for his questions, and I'm going to come back to me for my closing questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Newmaster. Very enlightening interview you today.
Thank you.
Appreciate you spending the time. I had a number of questions as follow-ups to some of the things you were talking about. One of the things we had as a question is to speak in regards to the input of surrounding cities and institutions and how you think that they've impacted East Cleveland. I just wanted to get you to elaborate on that because then you came back and you started talking about border cities and their relation to East Cleveland. And just now you were mentioning the vacation places of University and Cleveland Clinic. So if you could expound more on surrounding cities and institutions and how they have impacted the city of East Cleveland from the 80s when you moved in to today.
Right. Well, I'll go back and bring it up to the present. You know, whenever you want peace, the opposite of peace is war. You're going to have to, so even I use the analogy of martial arts to answer this question. Many people don't understand what martial arts truly is. It's the art of war, but you actually war for peace, inner peace. Peace is not the absent, a conflict or adversary, but it's your ability to keep your oneness with God and nature while you're in the midst of conflict and adversary, which brings us back to the unity that East Cleveland was known for in the 80s, and we talk about these borderline cities. It was hard on a lot of East Clevelanders to maintain a mutual respect and peace, but it was done because the higher vibration always gonna cancel out the lower negative vibration. And I'll give you some examples. Many of us had cousins, old neighbors, and friends and families that went to Glenville, Collinwood, Cleveland Heights, these borderline cities I mentioned. And a lot of people felt torn when the people they know have a mutual relationship and love and respect for, when their other associations conflict one another, these border cities. Well, what happened as we got older, a lot of people from these borderline cities took on some type of profession, involving themselves in either real estate, politics, or in the medical profession, and around these borderline cities. You got a lot of clinics, for example, and these borderline cities surrounding small clinics for the community. So then you have a lot of people that in construction, in politics, running for different wards and councils. Not because we been part of the old rivalries and also shared the love of olden times of East Cleveland and borderline cities. We more so know what's needed than anybody else. We live this, we walk this, we ate this, we inhale, exhale this. We have bowel movements with these cities and unresolved issues that became present issues. So that, when you ask me how can I and others who experience it with me impact, we know the problem. We was there where it started. We seen it evolve. We know the root cause, the person, places, the things that was part of the root cause to these things. Who better us to solve it? And yet, to go more in depth, it's to look at it in some ways, it's our moral obligation to do something about it. If we say we love this city, and more importantly, our children or our friends' children and grandchildren is there now. So when you uplift yourself, you have to uplift your environment around you. Otherwise, it'll stress you and cause stress on the other parties. This is why most people, when you see in martial arts movies or some type of master, always move out to a wilderness or what's called a sacred grove when they elevate their consciousness. Not so much running away from the problem, but ones who enlighten themselves know that society as a whole has not done this. So in order for them to come back and be useful, they have to remove themselves from the same worldly things that other people have, unfortunately, have not conquered within themselves to be helpful. Like myself, for example. I can't have the same issues in order for me to help you with the same issues. I can't be, well, I'll say that question for you. I'll say that for you. What's your next question?
I just wanted to keep going with that question. Cities, surrounding institutions, whether it's University Circle, the historical buildings down there, do you think inequality, how does that fit into, say, the build out of some of those, but not East Cleveland?
Well, you can't be so close and not have an effect, you see. When I say borderlines, I mean, you walk down 50, 100 feet and you in another city, you know, or as I used to call it, it's night and day. So a lot of people go more on the hilltop, you see them say, this East Cleveland? Yeah, this still East Cleveland. You know, the house is behind Terrace Road, going up the cut to Taylor. That's still East Cleveland, for example. So as far as University Circle, you had the infamous food co-op, 118th and Euclid. There's one thing you got to realize. Cleveland, for the last 18, going on 20 years now, have been voted the #1 city to have the best public transportation out of all the states of the Union. So when you look at Windermere, all these rapid stops really have a synergetic connection, as I mentioned, synergy. No individual part is greater than the whole. All this was part of East Cleveland, not only on a social level, even on a political level, and on a personal level, and on an entertainment level. This one stop takes you through all these cities. And Cleveland, in some ways, been compared to California and New York. You know, you have what you call your 5 boroughs in New York. Well, you have that same thing here in some ways in Cleveland when you look at the different rapid stops. You look at what I call the borderline cities. Even in real estate, They know the value of so many feet within another residential area has an effect or on increasing the value or depreciating the value of another area. So there is a synergetic connection on a social level, on a personal, on a residential level, and on a political level. So, but the people have to be taught this and get involved. See, the neighborhood not bad. It's negative people that make the neighborhood bad. What makes a neighborhood bad? So we back to personal growth with the borderline cities. They have to be taught what unity is. As I always say, you don't have to complain about the issue. All the old school people need to get together and go teach them. We too busy complaining. It's I'll make this airplay, but and I'll change the words up. It's a TV show called The Boondocks. In the episode, they portrayed Dr. King as if he still lived, and he came out of the coma in 2000. This is what he would say. He said, he talked about us still clinging to names that alludes to the principles of slavery. So he gave a speech when he seen all this chaos taking place amongst his people. He says that, and you don't want to be, he talked about the N-word. He said you don't want to be this because the N-word is a living contradiction. He said the N is filled with unfulfilled ambitions. He said the N love to wax and wane, love to hear themselves talk but hate to explain, love to complain, love being another man, judge and jury, love to be late. He said love to be late, hate to hurry. This is what you're seeing going on in the community now. See, so when you hear people whining and complaining, they simply don't know what to do or don't want to play their part. They don't feel connected. But what you do easily affect me. And since we're talking about East Cleveland, for those who don't know, East Cleveland has been the #1 city in Cuyahoga County with the highest rate in sexual predators. And why is that? As I explained to my youth group at the Civic Center East Cleveland, I said, why, when you look at streets entering East Cleveland from Universal Circle, like Lakeview, coming down to Brightwood, Cardian, and other streets coming up to Superior Euclid. I mean, you got sexual predator, 4 streets, straight in a row, up and down, Skipper Street, another 4 streets. And as I explained to the youth, I said, so they say, I didn't know that. Why is that? They asked why. I said, well, let's take what we call the Duck Pine Forest here versus the Duck Pine and Universal Circle. And we have fishermen that want to fish. If they see all the fish is very active and the Duck Pine Forest Hill Park, they're going to naturally fish in Forest Hill Park. So what I established in this analogy is that it goes back to what I mentioned earlier, that a lot of the children don't have no guardian. That's actually being the guardian. They have an assigned guardian on paper legally, but they're not fulfilling that. So as far as your questions you asked in regard to what has impacted East Cleveland and what's the impact today, it's the residents. The residents of today does not value the city as we did coming up. It always starts with the residents. People live there. You go down the city of Euclid and you will see a community block watch. Even in this home I stay in right now, Northmoreland, connected to Shaker Square. I used to live across the street when we met. It's total night and day. This side of the street, it's a community. This building, you even sense the energy different over here when you got here. it's a whole different feel here, just right across the street. You see, so people on this side of the street are more cultured in their thinking. I had one of my neighbors, I had the pleasure of living down the hall from her. I call her the head union of the building. She made sure anything get done here. So it's the same thing in East Cleveland. Everything starts with the residents that live there. If they don't care, who else supposed to care?
So if I'm understanding you correctly, and this is kind of jumping me around with my last question.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned earlier drugs led to the degradation
Mm-hmm.
of East Cleveland,
Mm-hmm.
and the residents valuing the city.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else that kind of led to the deterioration of the city? Because I know you mentioned the 80s, and the 80s were high times
Mm-hmm.
in East
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland. East Cleveland to where it is today.
Mm-hmm.
If you had any other thoughts on that?
Just elaborate on that. You know, when any neighborhood that becomes drug infested, bring all these other problems. So I'm quite sure we know the same people. You hear what's called in every senior year of high school, you have these votes on who's going to be the most successful. All right. You know, East Cleveland is known for turning out a lot of athletes or scholarships for those who have potential to go to some professional sport, whatever it was. And these same people, our old brothers and sisters, you see what they're doing now, that they got caught up in this drug era. You see, so it goes back to where I started this interview with, the moral and spiritual principles of us individually, collectively as a whole, because I think another thing that changed that decline in East Cleveland was the community events. You know, that really was a big part in initiating other social issues that need to be dealt with. It reinforced love amongst one another. It reinforced love around the border cities, because the border cities residents came over to East Cleveland. No problem. But at a football game, for example, you got one person who just start all the trouble, set it off. So that's how important the social events were. It brought all these border cities together, where everybody knew you went to a rival school. No problem. It was a family affair. Everybody had a good time. That, if East Cleveland can get that back, you're gonna hear a lot of history coming. I'm still learning stuff about East Cleveland I didn't know. You know, so Silver B was a big part of that. I can't leave Silver B out, in the mix. So Silver B, if those don't know Silver B, one of his primary things he do as work, he's, let me show you sure I get it right, he's a drug counselor, but he also known as the entertainment chairman of Ohio. He has been a big part and contribution to a lot of things as far as government, politics, entertainment, social event. I mean, he's been part of some of everything. He's been around for a long time, and he has definitely one you want to talk to. He lived on the corner of Roxbury and Euclid in that tall apartment building right next to next to Van Bruin, where Dodge Right Recreation was at. He also known as an old school DJ, Silver B, and he was pretty much the host of a lot of events, whether it was political, social, entertainment. I mean, whatever it was, you name it, he was there. You know, so he's seen many generations come up. Some was fortunate to move on and be successful. For the most part, he bear witness to a lot of people who didn't make it. I've known him since I was 12. He used to watch me practice moonwalking, you know, across the street from Windermere. So there's many others besides myself who played a big part in this.
It's interesting you brought up Silver B, because when you started talking about breakdancing
Mm-hmm.
and old school battling,
Right.
And at the festival, first person I thought of was Silver B. He was
Right.
responsible
That's right.
for making a lot of those things
Mhm,
happen.
mhm.
And remember AJ Fox
Mm-hmm.
and all them, the dance
Yeah,
songs,
right.
they was countable for it,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful time.
Mm-hmm.
My last question, and I've been waiting on you to follow up on this.
All right.
You kind of was holding out on us, because you started, but then you stopped. It's almost like you didn't want to break us all the way off.
Right, right.
But you talked about racism,
Right.
it being the root to a lot of issues,
Mhm.
racism and inequality shaping
Right.
and molding
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mhm.
Now, if you could, we
All
here.
right,
We
all
got
right.
all day.
All right. Here's some revelations for my people of African descent. What is one of the main things that we cry about for 7 generations here in the United States? What is one of the most, or when I say top 10 frequent made statements or concerns or complaints? Us not being recognized, and there's a reason for this, moral, spiritually, and legally. And these things will come out in this time and abroad because this is the era of revelations we live in now. Revelations meaning to be revealed and known. This age is known as the age of Aquarius. This is the age of information, meaning this is the age of revelation. Through revelations come much information. But one of our people's problems, which is very profound, is we don't know who we are. More profoundly, we don't even care. See, it's not a problem with finding out who you are. What people is going to find out in this time of era is that in order for man to be recognized, he must know his free national constitutional name that's connected to a free constitutional government. We still cling to names that allude to the principle of slavery. I'll give you an example, and this may come to a shocking, but every man, and this man is a neuter now, including male and female, has a nationality. They have a flag that belongs to a country, that belongs to a free constitutional government, that has government officials that actually represent them. A free national name means this: you have a descent name and a national name. If I'm born in America, if I'm Irish and born in America, my free national name is Irish American. I have a descent flag, I have a national flag. My descent flag is Irish. If I'm German descent and born in America, my free national name is German American. My descent flag is German. Now, when you get into the terms, black, color, Negro, this is not actually the name of a people, but these are terms used in reference to property. A noun is a person, place, and thing. Person, place, and thing. Chinese man is a person, place is China, Chinese food is thing. Black is an adjective, it's not a noun. Black describes my people of African descent condition mentally and emotionally, but not establish them as a people, not identity. When you look up even white, white means purity, purity means God, God means ruler of the land. Black, according to science, means death. When you take time, look up the word civil death. And what you will come to find out is say a person whose legal status is equivalent to a person that's dead. It also means deprived civilly. So when we identify with terms that allude to the principle of slavery, we also take on the condition that comes with what we identify ourselves with. So according to the Constitution of the United States, black, color, Negro is not part of the human family. It's not part of, can never be a citizen. It's a clause in the Constitution called 3/5 of a man and all others. Well, that's a fraction. 3/5. You have a spirit, even though you may not be conscious of it. You have a soul, and you have a body. No one can take that from you. You just have to come into knowledge and awareness of this. But it's two things that's missing. Three things you have, but two missing. It's 3/5. Nationality and creed.
Damn, that's good.
All right. See, when you hear, well, our names was taken, that's not your first and middle name that was taken. It's your free national name that was taken. That's why, according to all true and divine records, and I'm going to explain what true and divine records is. According to all true and divine records of the human race, there is no black, colored, Negro, according to these records, because all the inhabitants of Africa are part of the human family. No one can change man from his nature of descent unless his hands extend beyond the great universal creator, God himself. No one can change your descent nature. If you're born in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, that don't make you Pacific American. You were born in the back, it don't change your genealogy, it don't change your bloodline. So true records is this. You won't find a black, colored, Negro people or a nation or a flag. True records is all peace treaties, past, present, and future. All constitutions or any constitutional government. Divine records, you won't find a people called black, colored, Negro. Divine records is pretty much simply the holy revealed word of God. In the Bible, there is not a people called black, colored, Negro. So you can't find a record. They're as a people part of the human family. What's known as the Holy Quran, the Holy Ingedi, the Dead Sea Scrolls, any of these old books, you don't see, so say true records and divine, you don't see a people called black, colored, Negro. The word nigger deludes from the word in Latin, negro. So when we cling to these names, and one of the most foolish and folly things we can do to this day, and I'll speak on behalf of all Europeans' descent. They want to know, why do we get mad? Why do you get mad if we say this N-word and y'all call this each other every day? If I name you George, and my name is George to everybody, for example. How you gonna get mad when I'm the one who named you George, I call you George? So what I'm getting to is this. I gave you these slave names because black, colored, Negro actually deal with property, not people. And in the movie Roots, they call those African descent chattel. Chattel is a word used in real estate as property. It's a legal term used in real estate. If I call you George as the master / nigger, I gave you this term for you to identify yourself. And you, for generations, you use this to this day. And the MC Nas have a song, he talks about us stop using this. And he said, what you trying to do is authenticate your negativity now. So why you get mad and you tell everybody this your name, you answer to this name, but the person who gave you this name, you get mad when they call you this name. So you see, we have debased ourselves from our forefathers in God through thoughts, words, and deeds. We don't know who we are. And the problem really comes with we don't want to know, because we so busy want to play the victim. We are the victor and the predator lies in the same person. Everybody want to pull this race card. Chris Rock got a joke. He said no better. He said the biggest racist people is people call themselves black. So we all want to check for something that we didn't even went through. What Cedric Entertainer say on the King of Comedies? He said black people don't need no reparations. If black people had restoration, they made Cadillac the #1 car dealer in North America. All right? We think that we have Obama in office. We think because a brother come to office, we supposed to be above the law. I'm supposed to do things that's unmoral now. You hear these silly remarks. So back to East Cleveland, this generation there now is the seventh generation, is also the first and last of its kind. This is the first and last generation whose life expectancy is shorter than their parents from the diet alone, not even factoring in other more criminal acts in society. You know, we so quick to say the government or the so-called white man, who is not even half responsible for the things that we go through today. Michael Jackson said, "The man in the mirror," you see. So when you people, it's a spiritual teaching, a lesson called the insufficiency of knowledge. Listen to this. This is answering your question. It says, "Naturally doeth man desire the truth, but when it's before him, he will not apprehend it. And if it forces itself on him, he is not offended at all. For the fault is not in truth, for that is admirable. But the weakness of man cannot bear the splendor of this truth." So we all saying, I want to know. But a lot of people don't want to know, they just nosy. See, know is the prefix of the word knowledge. So with knowing comes a great responsibility, accountability. I got to give up this state of mind called slavery to be free, which is also a state of mind. Slavery was over in 1865. The 13th Amendment ended this. So why do we still call ourselves Negro, color? Color is not the name of a people or a nation. Color means anything painted, stained, varnished, or dyed. Black, according to science, means death. Ethiopia means something divided. Can a man be a black, colored Negro? No. Why? Because man is made in the image, likeness after God. You cannot be these things. If you call yourself these things, you debase yourself from God through thoughts. Thoughts are energy. Watch your words produce. Watch your thoughts produce your words. Watch your words shape and mold your actions. Watch your actions, because they will shape and mold your habits. Watch your habits, because they're going to shape and mold and produce your character. And your character will eventually produce, shape, and mold your destiny or your present concerns. If we don't like where we at this present moment, we got to backtrack all that to that seed of thought.
And I just want to,
And with that, before you go on, Lady Red, you have to tell us, for the record, how did you get the holistic health and martial arts? What brought you there? And please, I hope it was something that had to do with East Cleveland. Something happened in East Cleveland.
You know what? It is profound you asked that, because this is a historical note for East Cleveland. Wow, I was hoping we'd have to talk about this.
before you get started, in your closing remarks, we're going to have that to be your closing remarks.
Okay,
Let me ask my question.
all right.
You do your historical closing remarks on Mr. King's answer.
Okay,
And then if you have any pictures for us to take, then we'll do that.
all right.
So while still fresh in your mind, look into the camera and let us know your closing remarks on the historical question from East Cleveland to now.
I'm answering the question that Brandon just asked me.
Correct, in your own words, and then I'm gonna follow up with it.
Wow. You know, East Cleveland did have a big part in my martial arts beginning, because there is no true hip hop without martial arts. For those who know me from far and near, you can't talk about East Cleveland martial arts without bringing up the Bilal brothers, okay? All right, wow. Terrence Bilal, the oldest. Second oldest, Anthony Bilal. Third oldest, Terrell. And Tyrone Bilal, myself, Aaron Brown, Marty Wade, and there's one other guy. He didn't know martial arts, but his name is Dennis Menifee. So we used to the 80s itself was like the Kung Fu days. I mean, Jim Kelly, everything was going on, the tournaments. So yeah, my martial art background was heavy in East Cleveland. Then you got the Hugleys on the upper part of the page. And this is one, I'm not we not proud of talk about this today, but the most memorable fight, historical fight, still talked about to this day. Nothing happened like this before this and since then. Was myself, the Bilals and the Hugleys and their company, right there at the corner of Chapman and Euclid, where it's a hair salon across the street from Mr. Heroes. The whole city, everybody, the police couldn't get through. You know, it was like a comic movie going on at the Scrumpty downtown. You know, so actually Tim Hughley, the Hughleys is out of the Hughley family on Page. It was a set of twins, Tom and Tim, and Tim wasn't part of that. Fortunately, if Tim was there, it would have been another level of competition. But, you know, the whole way that issue got started, it turned to a big East Cleveland mess. And Tim and Anthony Bilal one day was sparring in the courtyard. Everything happened at Shawhide Courtyard. It started at the table in the tech. You know, they going back and forth with hand movements. Then they took it outside. So this was Tim last year at Shaw before he went to the military. That incident happened the year after. So besides that, I had to mention that. That was a historical archive note. Yeah, martial arts is real big in East Cleveland. That's why it was like a Mecca journey for me to go back to the Civic Center to teach it. A lot of things happened through East Cleveland, you know, under the bridges of going down Northfield and Strathmore, going to the bottom half to, the Windermere, it was big time, especially at Windermere Rapid Station, you know. So as far as martial arts, holistic health, it's all as one. It all share the same principles, you know. A big part of martial arts is health. To truly be a well-rounded martial artist, you cannot live a Western world lifestyle, which is a toxic lifestyle. You look at any martial art movie, you don't see these issues of sickness and health with martial artists. It don't exist, you know. When you talk about the art of war, we talking about protecting yourself against your own foolishness and folly, against your own lower self. You know, your immune system is the military of the body, for example. It's your Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine. So once you deactivate that, you pretty much subject yourself to all chronic illness and diseases. Stress comes from a weakened immune system, you know. And it's two nervous systems that's very important, play a big part in your life. Parasympathetic nervous system and sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is one of the first nervous systems developed when a child is born, conceived. What is the environment of a newborn child like? Serene, peaceful, and quiet. The sympathetic nervous system is the opposite. It's what's called your fear, flee, and flight mode. Oh, I ain't got time for this. Oh, I ain't got time for that. Always, just irritable, discomfort, or some type of pain. Well, that derives out of a weakened immune system. And 70% of your immune system is in your colon. And you hear this phrase, all death and diseases start in the colon. So if a person constantly affirming their stress, many people don't know what stress is, but they affirm this every day. You're only supposed to use 2 minutes out of a 24-hour period of your sympathetic nervous system, where we in this 24/7. Then you wonder why we are dying from stress-associated diseases as well as stress, which is 97+ factor in killing people here in the United States. So the Western world lifestyle and diet is very toxic and deadly. And martial arts, being part of the holistic health, combats against that. It reestablishes order within your inner being and teach you how to eat to live.
My question's for you, but I have 3 questions. My first question, when you mentioned concerning and you elaborated on health and eating, what would you, look into the camera, and I know that you mentioned this, especially our young people, what would be the 3 basics you would say and mention to them that they need to start today? What homework would you give them for the basic of eating?
Well, when we speak of eating, you have 2 major components. You have food for thought and food that we consume to sustain the functions of the human body. We have to, I would tell the children, they have to learn the purpose of eating. They have to learn, learn how to build a healthy relationship with food. See, people here in the Western world, who lives a Western world lifestyle, are in a bad relationship with food. Anytime you find out that something is not only killing you, but many generations, and you can't walk away from that, you have developed a chemical dependency. You are an addict. You can't point at those who use street illegal drugs anymore. Because right now in the state of Ohio alone, there's 25,000 plus pending cases from people who die for prescribed and over-the-counter drugs, not street illegal drugs. Prescribed and over-the-counter drugs, for example, kill 10 times more than all the street illegal drugs put together. So this is important because the Surgeon General was asked a question, for example, by the media. He said, they asked him, what is the national threat of the United States today? He said, obesity, diabetes. That is the national threat. Michelle Obama gave records in her ABC exclusive interview. She said 60% of the military faculty, meaning all 4 branches, they spending more money than ever in the history of the United States to teach people how to eat. At one point in time, you couldn't be enlisted if you didn't have a certain health status. Now, you let anybody in. Look at the police force.
So specifically, what would you tell the young people to do or not to do?
I would start them with the basis of learning what health is, because we don't know.
Okay. My other question is, you mentioned and giving props to Silver B, and you mentioned he actually started and still on the scene since the 70s, is that correct?
Yes.
Was he one of the ones who influenced you?
Yes, I would say he influenced me more on a administrative and business level. You see, when you get into the history of hip hop, it was only originally 5 elements: breaking, MCing, DJing, beatboxing, and graffiti. Now, when hip hop started to expand, then it came into the other 4 elements: street fashion, street language. Now you see entertainers have their own clothesline. Then you got into trade and business and street entrepreneurism. Now we can own companies. We got record labels. Before we didn't even imagine that.
And back in the hip hop era, at one point they thought it was a fad and it was going to go away. Is that correct? But it's its own universe now. Is that correct?
It's always been its own culture. It's always been that. And you see, there's a difference between a true MC and a rapper, for example. The MC represents the consciousness of the people. An MC will recite rhymes to uplift his people, but a rapper will recite rhymes that's mostly illegal. The rapper represents corporate America. The rapper will say anything to make some money. They don't care if it's immoral. They will compromise morality and principles. They will compromise, they will sell their soul, you know.
And when you mention this is my closing question, and we're going to get to some pictures or any materials that supported this wonderful interview. And when you talked about young people, what do you want to see in East Cleveland that young people can be doing today as a whole?
Well, first thing comes first. They need mentoring and learning how to love and care for themselves. They need to learn this, and they're not going to learn, it's obvious they're not going to learn it from their households because it's missing there. You know, so they need, not know anybody can teach this. In order to teach man to be pure in the heart, that person must first be pure in the heart, word, and deed. The man that stands upon the corner of the path and points the way but does not go that way is just a pointer, and a block of wood can do the same, or a street sign. The true teacher or master treads the way on every span of ground. He leaves his footprints clearly cut, which all can be assured that he, their master, went that way. So the children need someone. In order truly to know something, you must be what you know. They need someone who is the living manifestation of what message is being given to them.
Well, Mr. Newberry, I want to just say thank you so very much for allowing me to interview you. It really has been an uplifting, powerful interview.
All right, thank you.
And I think that you brought out a lot of perspective that was not in our previous interview when you mentioned more about the health part of it and the hip hop part of it and the spiritual body, soul, and the health part of it. And I can say personally that I am very involved in health and food. I'm very conscious of it. And my counterpart, Mr. Brandon King, he is also conscious about it. So this has really been refreshing for both of us.
All right.
About how
That's
we
good.
feel. And I wanted the young people to know this because they need to know that still within us, and we're still young,
Right.
that we are health conscious about food, about the perspective, and we still look good
Right,
for
that's
our
right,
age.
that's right.
Okay? Because I'm 50-something, you 40-something. And I think it definitely needs to be known, so you brought a different perspective on it. So what I'm gonna do is have you to walk us through some of the things that you have
Okay.
to show us. And that will close out the interview.
All right.
And once again, it was very powerful and enlightening
Oh,
and
thank you.
enhancing for East Cleveland. And thank you once again, and we'll proceed on to the pictures or archives that you have for us.
All right.
I'm Mike, and cut this off for a second. Well, I'll just Mike, and then we can, we can get into that. Take this one.
I think it went well.
Yeah, you know what I wanted to do? I should I wanted to write down certain questions for you to ask me, but
We can do a part B when you at someplace else. When you teaching,
okay.
we can come and use that as a part B session. Is that something that can be done?
Definitely.
So when you're ready, you call me.
All right.
We'll do a part B.
All right. Let's see. You still want this chair right here? Should I?
No, we can, it's up to you. Whatever you want us to see, whatever you want to talk about.
Let's see. Did you want me to speak on something?
Please do.
It's your tape.
Okay.
It's your tape. Whatever you want on there.
Oh, wow. All right. Give me a count.
You're on.
Mr. Newberry, Mikial Newberry is back again, just explaining some very, to some it's interesting, to some may be controversial. But I want to clear up some myths on certain things. This is what I call my energetic fountain of youth. And I know some of you out there are going to say, oh, that's idol worship. Well, let's clear up some history, because man knows not by being told. For those of African descent, if you don't know what this is, first of all, I got a good deal with this from Federal Dollar Store. But this is really you. All right? What does remind you of Africa with the ear piercing? And who hair looks like this other than the curly, kinky hair? These statues, everything I have over here has something to do with health. When you understand, you get into the teachings, you have a lot of people misunderstand what Buddha is, for example. Buddha does not deal with idol worship, nor Confucius. When you don't understand historical architecture, it's best not to, you can't confirm or deny what it is. All these things have something to do with health, and when you get into Ayurvedic medicine, which is from India or from Egypt, yes, that's right, your forefathers, Egypt. So started in Egypt, then migrated to India. Ayurveda means the science of long life. And these statues, for example, this one, these are different positions to improve the digestive system, to improve the respiratory system, to improve the kidney and liver, to improve the lymph node system. These are actually positions of yoga. Yoga is part of Ayurvedic medicine. It deals with fasting and cleansing and detoxing the organs in the body, along with meditation. This right here is called a stone grid. For those who specifically like only dealing with biblical scriptures, it talks about many healing stones in the Bible. And it just brings me back to what is the connection between food, God, and man. Well, when we talk about synergy, there's a synergetic connection between food, God, and man. This food. We know our body, also known as clay, in the book of Genesis, for example. We know our body is of the earth, the same elements of the earth. We have boron, selenium, iron, copper. All these elements are in your body, but they're also on the earth. So how did they get there? So we can't go up to a mountain, for example, and bite off a piece of zinc. Our body not designed to digest these rocky elements. So through God, divine plan, infinite wisdom called for plant life to spring from the soil that our bodies come from. So we are recycling the same synergy, these elements. If we do not have these elements, we eventually get sick, then we will eventually die. We cannot get protein nutrition from a decaying carcass. That's one of the most profound fears we've been taught by Western world lifestyle teaching. It's a historical fact that our eating habits come from slavery. True protein nutrition comes from plants. And also consciousness is in plants. You are what you eat, whether it's negative or positive. If you eat death, you eventually kill yourself. You eat life, you preserve life. For example, you take a potato and put it on the table. It eventually, see, the roots will come out. It is a living entity, it's a spirit. But you put your fish, chicken, beef, pork, lamb on the table, it's going to continue to decay. Okay, so all these stones have the same synergetic healing power that food has. Now, we talk about plants. What is consciousness? When we are separated from all this, in terms where they say they lose consciousness, you can go for a while without eating and water, but not air. But air is more than the physical element and substance. It is connected to the divine in so many ways that's beyond finite thinking. And here's the proof of this. You're not just breathing in air. You breathing in inhaling divinity. So when you say, if air gives me this consciousness, go even deeper. Where do air come from? Plants, trees. This is man's synergetic connection to nature. You can't get these things through an animal-based diet. If we did not know anything about plant-based foods or animal-based foods,
All we have to do is just bear witness. Well, what's killing people? What's healing people? Why do people reverse cancer, diabetes? My clients is the testimonies of this. From changing from an animal-based diet to a plant-based diet. From changing from a toxic lifestyle to learn how to live a toxic-free lifestyle. So this energetic stationing is used for meditation. A lot of people misunderstand what meditation is. Even in medical law, the word meditation and medication is the same thing. All right. One thing heal means, the etymology of the word heal means spiritual soundness. So, we'll come over here to finish this discussion. I'm still under construction here, like John Witherspoon said, you got to coordinate. All right? I'm still coordinating. All right?
Okay.
So, a lot of people misunderstand ninjas. I got a lot of things I'm gonna put up around here. But ninja is a sacred art. It's really the art of assassination. But in terms of positivity and spiritual enlightenment, you learn how to assassinate the lower self that dwells in all men, man's carnal nature. These swords have a meaning. In Japanese it's called Bushido, which means the way of life or the way of the sword. So these swords have such a true warrior never wants to war. They know the result of war is death. And they're willing to give their life and will to sacrifice for a positive cause because they know they are not these bodies. We are spiritual beings having a human experience. People think it's the other way around. These pictures I use to create a visual, serene, I create a serene image in the person's mind. A lot of people come here, I use essential oils, and all these things affect you on a cellular level. I'll create a serene environment to tone down what I mentioned earlier, that sympathetic nervous system. When you get into the elements of Ayurvedic medicine, fire governing the digestive system, the liver, the gallbladder. That's where sympathetic nervous mode spawns. Stress can exist in the parasympathetic nervous system. That's why Tai Chi is a meditative state. Mm-hmm. It tones down the sympathetic nervous mode or fear, flight, and flee mode and brings you back to that inner peace. So our martial arts form are actually an encyclopedia of moves that's very sacred. It's a way that the teacher communicates to the student. And these moves have significant, intricate foot patterns that initiate healing properties in the body. To those who are not conscious, it may look, they don't understand what's going on when these movies are applied properly. But water, if you heard of the term feng shui, which is an ancient art from the East of establishing spiritual prosperity, cleaning out mental and emotional clutter in your life. So that's what I'm in the process of doing, feng shui in place. I also use this place for practice, and you deal with the elements of air and water when you feng shui. So these pictures always bring common effect. I have my table set up in here, and I do a lot of energetic body work in this room. A lot of people hit the door and say it's good energy, and they feel calm all of a sudden. And I do that as well because people come in different states and conditions from this chaotic world, so I have to keep the place energy at a certain level, being an energy practitioner. So just to sum it up, this is the age of energy medicine is going to resurrect itself amongst the common people, that is. But those who are part of certain sacred priesthoods and religious organizations that do teach this, it has never went anywhere. 80% of the world, for example, still use herbs for medicinal purposes. And these things, these ways of older times coming back to existence for them all. Is there any other questions?
No, that's it. Very enlightening. I'd like to thank you for your
Did I
time.
answer the question, finish that about the martial arts in East Cleveland? Or did you?
What got you started in the martial arts?
This is part of my spiritual calling. It's part of my spiritual disciplines. I always was drawn to things. Many people don't understand about past lives, but that means you don't understand about eternity. We are not these bodies. Man is not the body or the soul, he's the spirit part of God. So part means portion of the whole. There's no way you can have one lifetime. What have you learned in this state of mind called black color Negro in this one lifetime? How can you get back to the highest plane of spirit life without perfecting yourself in his flesh? Spirit man has to perfect himself in the flesh before he can elevate to these higher planes of spirit life. Well, we say to a child, oh, that's an old soul. Well, wait a minute, so you talking of past lives. Or you say things like soulmate. Well, if you say it's a soulmate, you got to know it's past lives. So you're talking about spiritual kindred versus biological. Even in law, family means love and affection, the reciprocation of love and affection between two or more people. Now, when you hear the term blood thicker than water, where do we get this talk from? That don't mean nothing biologically speaking, because me and my sister have the same mother and father, don't have the same blood type. If they need some blood, I can't give them none of my blood, so what did that mean? We talking about your spiritual family versus your biological. Just because we share the same auntie and uncle don't make us family. If that's the case, the families never broke up from slavery. It takes more than that to make family. So let's get back to moral and spiritual connection to make family. So martial arts, I always watching the movie since 11. I started at 12 officially. I've been teaching, I've been in it 30 years, been teaching for 15. So this is a big part of who I am, and I just gotta keep it real with you. And this is a lesson to the youth who get a chance to watch this. If it wasn't for my spiritual disciplines that's heavily martial arts, a big part of that, I'd be wanted for multiple homicides. I'd be a serial killer. Because I'm not gonna sit in no jail. I'm gonna get everybody on the list, who was spared through this spiritual discipline. So, and I'm glad, I got a chance to be part of many people's lives, make a great impact. And every time I experienced that, I always was glad I didn't snap, When every time you elevate on a spiritual path, you're always going to be tested. Without a foe, a soldier never knows his strength. And through the exercise of thought, this strength must be developed. So you got to have these foes. Even on a video game, every time you clear a board, each round get higher and higher. So you must have these foes. And martial arts is really a state of mind. You're a mental warrior. Right. The thing that kills people most, you just walk away. You hit him like the X-Men, you hit him with your mind. You see, how he so cool with it? Now I'm telling you, I done hit guys verbally, but I'm teaching them to spend that time while they standing there acting a fool. I mean, with this slave mentality, they just be acting a fool, saying all kind of, and I'm sitting there all cool and calm. He's not supposed to be acting like this. That scares them. And they say, oh, man, you crazy, man. They talk crazy, but they walk away.
All right. Appreciate you.